Trip Morning Show live on Black Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. at the Huntington Bank Rotunda at Mall of America. We'll be playing the Initials game live for multiple grand prizes, including a trip and ticket bundle to see your favorite teams on the road, plus the ultimate Minnesota Sports Day on Black Friday. Get the full details now at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Eagerly awaiting the arrival of Minnesota Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell. He's walking down from the laboratory where he's undoubtedly been mixing potions to figure out some things against the Tennessee Football Titans. It's the second of 3 consecutive games for the Minnesota Vikings on the road after beating Jacksonville. They hopefully will beat the Tennessee Titans and then beat the Chicago Bears. We got a football for you here. You don't want that one? Okay, cool.
Multiple game balls.
Right. See, that's an efficient head coach right there, where if you have an unforced error, where the head coach of a 7-2 operation comes down to the Vikings Entertainment Network and we don't have a football, he's going to bring his own football next time. But we made sure we had one here for you, and good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well. Why is that just, I don't want to say nookie blanky. Is that like just like holding on to it when you're having a conversation? And John, how are the wife and kids? Doing all right? Excellent. Good. Yeah, good to see you. Tell Logan I said hi.
PA, full disclosure, I was handed this football as I walked in the room.
Well, we wanted to make sure you were comfortable.
Yeah, you had, and was that an all white? Was that foreshadowing something?
Well,
the winter.
Oh yeah,
Warrior.
Oh, those. I was at the Vikings Museum, a couple of weeks ago with our friends at Continental Diamond, and I guess I hadn't really looked at those uniforms closely enough. Holy cow, those things are sleek.
Yeah, they're awesome. The guys are fired up. I've seen a lot of our fans. You know, you go to see our fans at US Bank. They already they're rocking those, looking good. So it'll be exciting to put those suckers on.
Well, in the transition business, how about this 3-2? From the uniforms that are sleek and white, we discuss a team that very much is in the black. The Minnesota Vikings at 7-2 after beating the Jacksonville Jaguars. They now take on the Tennessee Titans, and Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the team, and joins us each and every Tuesday around 11 o'clock. And we definitely saw Sunday why T.J. Hawkinson is so important, right? I mean, with that coverage, unprecedented and or abnormal even for Justin Jefferson. With him blanketed, Kevin kept, all right, 3-2. Sam kept finding T.J. for first downs. I mean, that story kind of wrote itself, right?
Yeah, it was one of those games where, you know, it was not a if you would have told me going into the game that we would get that level of just urgency with their plan. I mean, almost I think all but one snap before that kind of end of game sequence was really not only split safety but a variation of split safety, double and Justin getting hands on Jordan as well, trying to make it hard on our guys, and I thought they, for the most part, both those guys really battled through some tough leverages and found some grass, found some space on some things. And then ultimately our 2 tight ends combining for that amount of production. Josh Oliver's been fantastic for us, and getting TJ back there for some of those third downs. I think at one point he had 4 of his 5 catches, in that sequence were all on move the chain catches on third down. And then we isolated him kind of in the second half there on a linebacker for a big explosive. So
right.
All ways that, we did not expect that level going into the game, but, we've learned to have the adjustments ready as much as we possibly can, and all while trying to navigate what was a tough day for Sam, with some of those turnovers, and I thought his composure and his poise when it wasn't his best showing, he'd be the first one to say that, was a critical reason why we were able to put up over 400 yards and move it. But ultimately, this game's about scoring points, and would like to see our offense score a lot more than we did.
Well, Kevin O'Connell, as I mentioned earlier, has coached 44 games here for the Minnesota Vikings, and only 5 times during the run have you not scored your team not scored a touchdown in the red zone. It's crazy, too. There were so many abnormalities that came out of this Jacksonville game. The time of possession's unbelievable. Then we talk about the lack of single coverage on anybody, anytime. Like you said, that one where he got bumped, maybe a flag could have been thrown, but it wasn't, and it was a tipped interception. But then in the first 4 games where your offense did not register a touchdown inside the 20, inside the red zone, it was a combined 5 times, over 4 games. Well, it was 0 for 5 this last Sunday. That just shows you how abnormal that is. And really, is it maybe too simplistic here, but is the only and or best way to look at it is you won the game. That was an aberration. On to Jeffrey Simmons and the Tennessee Titans.
No, I don't think you can do that, because you've got to acknowledge, what took place on each and every one of those possessions, and I think, it would be a missed opportunity for not only our offense, but for our coaching staff and myself to look at it like that, because I think there's areas we can all improve and to make sure that whether it's execution, whether it's decision making, whether it's what the feeling was. I will tell you this, PA, when we were able to drive the ball down there after having the turnovers we've had, I think there's a layer sometimes where, in my mind, I'm trying to have some growth as the head coach, not just the play caller, not just the egomaniac of wanting to score points and constantly show everybody how smart we are. There was a mode that I think you have to go into sometimes to ensure victory when your defense is playing the way we were playing. And I made the decision, in the second half we were going to commit and run the football with a consistency, maybe a little bit more so than running and mixing passes in there when I knew we were going to be able to either capitalize on a short field on a turnover or potentially just ensure points. And that's what we tried to do. And we had the ability, if and when Jacksonville was able to recapture the lead, which I did not think they could against our defense on that given day, the way our plan kind of came together and the way we had kind of made that offense uncomfortable for a good portion of the game. Our guys were going to be fresh. They only played 42 snaps on defense, so I knew the pass rush would be humming when it mattered. Yeah. But if they did somehow capitalize on some plays and put some points on the board to retake the lead, I was comfortable going to get that thing and chase it down if we had to, no matter what it had looked like for Sam for the most of the day. That's my confidence level in him. That's 8 games of inventory of seeing him do things in our offense, and that's where we pick it up. Monday morning, getting back to work and putting together a great plan for what's really turned into one of the best defenses in the league in Tennessee. They've done a lot of really good things this year. A tough group. We're going to have to play a lot more consistent. Even though we moved the ball last Sunday, I'm talking about being consistent start to finish on drives, putting points on the board.
Okay, well, I mean, when I framed that up, I wasn't like, hey, I'm just going to roll in here and with the team. Hey, we won the game. Yeah. This happened. We had it 42 and change, which doesn't ever happen. We always score touchdowns in the red zone, and here comes Jeffrey Simmons, 3-2 break. I didn't mean it like that.
No, but I think it's valid, though, because...
I was talking more about you and, mental health of people, just to, take a deep breath and be like, all right, well, we're 7-2, man. That I didn't like that, and that. So let's move on.
Yeah, I think it's important, though, and your question's a good one, because I think there's a lot of methods to how you want to approach moving forward, but it would be a little bit, it would be naive for me.
It'd be lazy
to think, hey, I can preach 1-0, and not only are we trying to win every game we play, which we did, we won a football game, but also part of that 1-0 philosophy is coming back and being an improved version of what you were the previous week. I didn't like that we had some red zone turnovers after starting the game against Indianapolis with a red zone turnover. I did not like the fact that we went back on the road and we had a couple pre-snap penalties after not having a single one against Indianapolis. So week over week, as the head coach, you've got to find the areas of improvement while also understanding that it's a long season. So anytime you can win, we've got to stay positive, and we've got to make sure that we understand. Sometimes it's not going to look the way you want, but winning football games isn't the easiest thing to do in this league, regardless of who you play, where you play them. So my job is to win, but at the same time, my job is to push each phase of our football team to help us be the most complete team we can be, and try to play our best football as we progress into later in November and the month of December, because that's what I think good teams do in this league. I think we're a good team, and I think we've got a lot of improvement yet to still make as a team, which will be exciting for all of us to chase that on a daily basis.
Well, I mean, despite the coverage 18 received the last game, and probably against the Colts, and then like Aaron Jones goes down in London, and all of a sudden they decide, we're going to rush 4 and drop 7 and make you show us that guy can beat us in the running game.
Yeah.
And it kind of changed there. But what's the common thread? You want them all in a complement in the ultimate team game. And, I mean, with all due respect, it doesn't make somebody arrogant or an egomaniac when talking about the passing game. I mean, statistically speaking, you guys are tied for the NFL lead with Baltimore and San Francisco for the most 20-yard completions down the field. So that's fact. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But at the same time, I think what wins football games is you're not going to play a lot of games where you can get the time of possession the way we did. What wins football games is collectively running the football, generating some explosives. It's hard. Yeah. It's hard to go 12, 14, 15, 16 plays multiple times in a game and finish all of those drives with touchdowns. It's hard to do. It's what we strive to do every single week. But you've seen us before when we have a 7-8 play drive, we don't have a third down on the drive and we're scoring a touchdown, or against the Rams early on in that game where we have 2 drives of really 7 or 8 plays there for touchdowns, where I think we had one third and inches where we got on the ball quickly and got a sneak off for that first down, and then threw Sherfield or Oliver touchdown moments later. It's when we're in sync and we're rolling and plays are stacking upon one another. Really the only time that we've faltered is turning the football over, maybe late in the drive execution, pre or post snap, where we eventually end up in a third and long situation by our own accord, or potentially turning that ball over by, maybe it's decision making, maybe it's execution, maybe it's a poor play call, but all of which we've got to be in self-reflection mode, because we're not just trying to win a game in Jacksonville. We're not just trying to, although that's the philosophy every week, is to win what's right in front of us. We're trying to, put ourselves in a position to win games down the stretch and hopefully on into January.
Well, I mean, again, we mentioned through 9 games, the Vikings are tied for the NFL lead with the Ravens and the Niners, a couple of teams that have a legitimate chance to get to the Super Bowl the minute the schedule comes out, with completions of 20 yards or more down the field. So are or can a higher volume of interceptions transpire when that's your approach?
I think it's definitely possible. We went through it, in 2022 where we were very explosive, and Kirk's interception numbers, went up a little bit, and we were challenging, that season, for some. I don't know if we get some 4th and 18 completions at Buffalo, or I don't know if we get some, ops for Justin in that kind of historic season that he had that year, if we're not trying to competitively put the ball in play more so than only when things are wide open. So we have a system here where we're going to try to win leverages and get techniques that are friendly to then put the ball in play to guys for, Jordan and Justin and TJ and these guys to go make plays. But sometimes the defense makes a play. The ones that you got to really be on top of and making sure you're coaching up and constantly pushing our guys to understand are the self-inflicted decisions. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Was it a poor throw from a standpoint of accuracy, where maybe that third interception the other day, hey, Sam, what did your feet look like? What was your body position when you're trying to drive a ball to the boundary and that ball gets left a little inside? There's normally much more nuance to it than just a poor throw when you've got a guy that has been throwing the ball at the level Sam has. My job and our job as coaches is to go back and figure out the why. What happened? Was it a timing thing? Was it a disguise of the coverage that forced you to take one extra click, or was it a fundamentals and technique thing that maybe caused you to push that ball a little bit more inside than maybe leaving it in a safe spot on the boundary for Justin to go get. I think you see time and time again in our offense, we're trying to find the ways to get the easiest throws, yet also you don't want to be in a situation where you're constantly just throwing the ball underneath coverage on a day like that, because all of a sudden that coverage will get tighter and tighter, but the shell's not changing. At some point in time, there was a red zone sequence later on in the game where we just kind of threw Justin a fade kind of down the sideline into too deep. And I told Sam coming off the field, I said, no matter how much we want it to change, they're not changing. So, we've got to see that. We've got to diagnose that, and we've got to put the ball in play. And had a chance at Jordan on the backside, which in my mind as the play caller, I'm thinking the backside could be the front side if we see it and progress. But that's a lot sometimes to put on Sam. And that's where I've got to get better at making sure the minute-to-minute communication and how the game is going, regardless of what the coverage breakdowns look like going into games. It's that, world-class communication we've got to have to make sure that we are at our best when we need to be, and that always starts with me.
Well, that's unbelievably complicated, but I mean, that's the job. God has you exactly where you're supposed to be, and that's the job for which you signed up, and you're very good at it, but it's unbelievably complicated and has to be frustrating too, where like the 3rd and 1 late, the only sack of the game. Okay, it's a sack. Now you got to boot it away, and they have a 5% chance to come down and do something. But nevertheless, you're going to get asked about it, because it was a pass on 3rd and short. So then when you watch it back, it's like, wow, Justin has been viced the entire game. But if like one thing or maybe 1.5 things can happen on that play and Walker is blocked, well, there he is wide open over the middle. I mean, that just makes you like want to throw your pen down and go, wow.
Well, I think there's a lot to kind of unpack with that, and just to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit. It's 37-yard line, 3rd and 1. We just ran it 2 times in a row. There was backer run through on the 2nd down. It was really a great run by Aaron to avoid a negative run on that. So in my mind, I'm at the 37. If we do get back or run through on the 3rd and 1 and we get tackled for a loss, I'm not going to trot Park out there, even though he was 4-4 on the day. I'm not going to trot him out there for a 55-plus yard field goal and possibly risk giving the Jaguars a short field, because that would have been the number one way to give them a path to winning that football game. I also don't like punting the ball from the 37, 38-yard line. So knowing that might have been our sliver of chance to, put an exclamation point on a day that had not gone our way from a standpoint of scoring points. We did have an opportunity on the play to throw Justin freely running over the middle, but we didn't get the execution to get that defensive end chopped down and would have allowed Sam to see it and throw it. But it was trying to be, no matter what, it was trying to, take the entire situation into play. I told Sam before the snap, if it's murky or if it's cloudy at all or we give up any kind of rush, I want you to just go down, and Ryan Wright will have that much more room to try to pin them inside the 10, which we did not do in that moment either. So it was just it's a level of execution to go along with the mindset of situationally managing that, knowing where we are in the field, knowing what it looks like with the Jaguars coming back right at you, and then potentially where the clock was at the time, what a significant gain for a first down would have meant for a standpoint of possibly ending the game, PA, on the field as an offense. Kind of like what we did against Indy to finish that game after we had basically mowed it down the field for 6-7 runs in a row and then set up a way to put a stamp on that drive. All of which, goes into making decisions in the moment. I don't, unfortunately, always know how the execution is going to play out. I just know my confidence level in our guys to execute is going to be sky high because of the preparation we've put in. And that's all I have in those moments. And I'm going to continue to operate with that level of confidence in our guys to go make those plays when they're required.
Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, weekly 9 to noon. It's a Talk Back Tuesday. Let's segue to the defense and to begin with this.
Hey, Kevin. It's Brandon here. A question I got for you. Seems like in our secondary this year, especially in the final drives of the game, we've made a lot of clutch plays and clutch interceptions. Like Murphy has 3 picks in the last 3 weeks, and Bynum has had multiple game-sealing interceptions. Gilmore this year too. Do you think that's a product of just having more overall starting experience in our secondary?
It's a great question, Brandon. And what I would say is, Byron Murphy's playing some of the best football of his career. Gilly's always had a feeling of being a closer in this league, a guy that you better be sure you want to throw at. because he can take the ball away, and Shaq's had his hands on some chances as well. And then our safeties are, I think, the best group of safeties in football. So when you have those kind of players in those moments, in total ownership of the way the game's gone and how Flo is calling the game, and then you tie in marrying that coverage with the rush, with Van Ginkel, with Grenard, with some of these guys, with Dallas Turner bringing some juice, and then you've got the ability of Cashman getting him back with IP as really good blitzers. A lot of times they're ending up one-on-one in the backs against running backs in those moments, and they're winning, forcing the quarterback off the spot, speeding him up a little bit, and then when that's tied in with really good tight coverage on the back end, or some of our visual pressure coverages where they have eyes on the quarterback and they see the ball come out of his hands, they can break and go get that football. It's a formula we've kind of tried to build from way back when you're putting together the personnel of this defense, thinking about, hey, we're going to win some games with our defense this year. We're going to do some things to build this group up to not only be consistent throughout, but have the ability to close games too, knowing a lot of games in this league come down to that final possession, whether you like it or not. And I feel really confident knowing in those situations when they come up in games, Brandon, that I can rely on our defense to close it out. And if we've got to go try to find a way to win it, we're still going to try to go do that.
I thought it was interesting that you guys go to full strength on defense, and it's the return of the untouched or unseen edge guy, potentially smacking a quarterback. Now, Andrew pulled up a little bit late, but let me ask you this. Maybe I saw it wrong when I watched it back. He seemed sad after the sack. Like he got up, it reminded me of my man, Young, at SoFi after the face mask. He knew he did it. It wasn't that bad, then your guy failed to call it. But Van Ginkel, did he think it was going to be a penalty because he thought he hit him with the right arm or something?
No, I think it was his disappointment. If you watch it close, he's going at the football. Oh, because Mac was kind of looking to the left, had that ball right in front of Gink like it was on a tray. Yeah, and he tried to swipe. I think even with both hands, tried to swipe it as he went to wrap. Mm-hmm. So when he swiped and didn't get the ball out and did get the sack, Gink was trying to not only get that ball out, he was probably trying to pick it up and go score again.
What a competitor. Holy cow.
And so that was probably the disappointment. It was a clean hit. It was a clean sack. But in those moments when it's truly a chance that a quarterback does not see him coming, he's trying to take the football from that guy.
Right, but it's rare to see somebody get a massive sack. Yep. Jones was not the same the rest of the game. And Van Ginkel gets up and he's sad. Like people are trying to celebrate. He's like, all right, lastly, the Titans. Defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons. Is he still really good?
Still really good. They've got the young kid from Texas as well. Massive human being in the middle.
Oh, Tavondre Sweat?
Yep. And, two really good. I think Arden Key's playing really well on the edge. And then you think about, can't think of his name
Kenneth
right now.
Murray Jr.?
No, the other guy on the edge. What do you got?
Oh, Harold Landry?
Yeah, I mean, where's the defensive ends on this sheet? I mean,
right
you got
here.
Linebackers in front of defensive ends.
These are the edge guys. These are the Jack Gibbons is inside with Murray Jr.
I'm not. There's no defensive formation that looks like that. I've never seen one like that in my life.
I pulled Tavondre Sweat for you, though, didn't I?
But really good defense. They're physical. Yeah. Tough to run the ball against. We're going to have to be very detailed in what angles and leverages we're trying to attack. And then we got to have the play style up front. But I do think it's a game that coverage-wise, we've got to be ready to see some split safety. We've got to be ready to handle some pressure looks when they show up. It's going to take a complete offensive effort to have a good day against these guys, and that's what we're going to put together a plan to go do and get back to being who we want to be on offense.
Lastly, Jack Gibbons, second-year Minnesota, number 50 for them. He's really jumped up of late. 29 tackles the last two games for number 50. What's he look like?
Yeah, he's playing really well. You see instincts. You see a guy that's kind of playing a click ahead of the play, diagnosing Luke Kuechly, being able to be out in front of things instead of reacting secondary where he does lose leverage or he's trying to chase things down. He's more bringing the fight and being right where he needs to be. Really well-coached defense when you watch him on tape, really sound with how they kind of put it all together. And then we've mentioned some significant names along that defensive front, and they've, whether they get Snead back at corner, I'm sure, if he does play, he'll be following Justin around all day, and hopefully Justin gets some one-on-one ops against him to see what that looks like. So it'll be a challenge. Good football team from a defensive standpoint for sure. And then offensively, they're going to run the ball well, and Will Levis is an ascending player that you just never quite know the type of day you're going to get. And he can, he's physically a very talented guy and growing as a young quarterback in this league. So there's a lot of unknowns, but you do know they're going to be well coached, and you do know you're going to have to play well to beat these guys, especially at their place.
Good seeing you.
Yeah, thanks, PA.
Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the 7-2 Minnesota Vikings. The Boom this Sunday at noon from Nashville, Vikings and Tennessee Titans. We appreciate Kevin stopping by, and we'll return after this, which includes Max and the Cash Thing.
The Fan and two men in a junk truck want to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand with our national cash contest. Enter the keyword dollar at KFAN.com now for your shot at winning. That's keyword dollar. Enter now at KFAN.com. Join the voice of the Vikings, Paul Allen, out at Hy-Vee in Savage today. Stop by from 5 to 6 p.m. to meet PA and Vikings fullback CJ Ham. Thanks to Hy-Vee and Pepsi, plus a live Q&A event to follow. Get the full details now at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Thank Kevin O'Connell for joining us for an elongated chat each and every Tuesday at 11 o'clock. Part of the 9 to noon Tuesday extravaganza, courtesy of Soukup and Soukup.com. Soukup with Soukup Manufacturing. It just, before we take a look at some things involving others and their lots and lives, the word manufacturing. We hit on it a couple of weeks ago when Soukup joined the Covenant. If you just listen to Kevin O'Connell break down like what had to happen on that 3rd and 1 from the 37.
Yeah.
And I'm like throwing my pen going, well, all right, you watch that. And if one thing happens, you've been waiting for Jefferson to shake open the entire day, and then you might finish the game on offense. He's wide open, middle of the field. I mean, when you watch that back, you kind of got to throw your green fine point Sharpie down and be like, wow. I mean, it just, there can be so, even from 7-2, none of these guys, Andy Reid, Bill Belichick, Bill Cowher, all through the history and annals of time, they ain't going to smell the roses. They just don't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, you win the Super Bowl and it's like cool for a week, and then all of a sudden you're in combine mode, or you're in draft and or free agency mode. So the smelling the roses or lack thereof facet of that job can make it thankless at times, but it's a wonderful job, something Kevin chose. You're well compensated for it. He happens to be very good at it. But it doesn't mean the metaphorical moguls aren't going to be in front of you, even if it's unprecedented, too high safeties, split safeties. 93% of the time, they're basically going to triple and or quadruple a player. But then, you get that player open and it's going to help you win the game, and something else goes wrong. But that was an enjoyable chat with Kevin today, just about, when he said look, I'm not this egotistical, blah, 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 whatever, who has to get down the field or something. I didn't know what that was born of. And I don't even want to guess whether
it made me wonder.
Well, is it somebody, looking at social media? Is it somebody listening to Fan Line? Is it somebody listening to something? Probably not.
Oh, great.
But that's a strange word. It's an out of ordinary word.
Yeah.
Or two words that he dropped when he said, let's just make it one word, egomaniacal. And so I was like, well, I mean, why say that? I mean, the Vikings are tied with the Ravens and the Niners for the NFL lead for most completions of 20 yards or more down the field. So that is statistical reality.
Yep.
It's not statistical forcing. It's not, I'm smarter than you. It's not, look at all these gotchas I'm getting.
Right.
That is statistical reality. It was taken away. That's not fun. And those who are compensated the way you or they are are compensated because of their brain power of working through things like this, not only schematically, but sitting down with your arm around somebody and being like, that was awful, but the next one's not going to be. Hey, we're going to get you open here. All right. It's going to work eventually. Just be patient, whomever. Hey, you didn't exactly block 44 as well as we would have liked on that play. And if you had, it's Jefferson for 20 and he still may be running, but you know what? It's going to be okay. Let's fix it this way. It just seems like there are always massive things to fix, no matter how good you are.
Well, I'm curious because that comment in particular, Hibby, him breaking down that sequence too, where he maybe there's either an element of the coach that is hyper and over critically self-aware to the point where he's saying, I'm not trying to outsmart everybody here. I'm not trying to prove I'm the smartest guy in the room. I'm trying to win football games. Or there is an element where maybe he has heard some of that out in the atmosphere somewhere. And then when you combine that with him explaining that 3rd and 1, combined with the punt. Again, you've said it several times. If you listen, you can read the tea leaves, and he's going to tell you just about everything you need to know.
Yep.
How pissed he was that whether it was Oliver not getting enough of Trayvon Walker, whether it was Cam Akers leaking out too far and wasn't able to recover and chip Trayvon Walker, how freaking mad this guy was that he couldn't finally get Jefferson 420 to the good, wide open across the middle of the field.
And we mean wide open. We're not overemphasizing it.
No, this isn't 2-yard trailer. Yeah. It's nothing but green.
Yeah, so Sam does a half-hearted play action to Akers because Akers is going to block a safety who's charging in. The safety stopped. Okay, well, Akers probably thought he was coming the full way. We don't know and that's the problem I always have with Pro Football Focus. You don't know either.
Right.
Whether Akers was supposed to go to the safety or stop and then quickly get back to Walker, who got through, or is it Oliver? Because Oliver went out in a pattern.
He did.
So he can't sit there. He can't sit there and block the bleep out of the guy for 5 seconds.
No, he cannot.
See, so, okay, 84 was involved. Was 27 involved? We have no idea. I didn't want to ask that question because it really doesn't matter at this stage of the equation.
Right.
But the A topic here is they had waited all game to get Justin Jefferson open. He wasn't just like 2 feet away from a Jag. There was nobody within 10 feet. And the play design was beautiful.
It was.
It's going to get a first down, force them to use all their timeouts, and you're going to win the game more quickly than you did. But nevertheless, so what were you saying?
Well, it's interesting that he breaks it down. You get everything out of it. Now, we are rubes, we are fans, we love it, and so we'll watch the play, and we're thinking about Oliver, we're thinking about Cam Akers. There could be part of him that's annoyed that Sam ultimately wasn't able to get rid of it, because then at least he may have had a 4th and 1 decision instead of just trotting the punter out there. But then he hits you with this. Well, at least Ryan Wright's going to have a chance to pit him inside the 10.
And he didn't.
And he didn't do that either. I mean,
I wanted to say, other than that, Miss Lincoln, how was the play?
How mad is he? And that's just a 2. And
you're so right.
He's not breaking down the
right.
Well, he broke down the interceptions earlier too, where maybe there was a footwork thing, and you're trying to drive that ball to that boundary, to that pylon, and so he's thinking, get your freaking feet right, and hit the back corner, and JJ's scoring a touchdown, and nobody's talking about your 3rd interception.
And see, on that 3rd and 1, he started it by saying, well, PA, we had run 2 previous times.
Yeah.
Aaron had to do everything he could to avoid a tackle for loss and did a really good job. And
you mentioned one of the backers coming in and crashing, and I think that's what led to maybe his decision. If they do that again, then we're in no man's land.
And they did. Well, no, but what they did on 3rd and 1, see, this plays into the next layer of it, where I don't believe Kevin is this guy. And I've come across this guy a lot of times in my career working next to this team, where like criticism or fans just being rubes, being like 3rd and 1, run the ball. Right. 3rd and 1, run the ball. I mean, you have to know that's too convenient to not the fan. Okay, fans are going to fan, but if something like that is bugging you, it can't. I mean, not because you got the money and you're in the job and you're the one doing the job and it's super hard. You can't let it bug you because the fan does not know, 98.7% do not know Okay, because like if somebody said that to him, you know, like in a moment like this, well, you know, why not? How come you didn't run?
Right.
But why don't you just run? You know, like you hear from fans. I mean, the mental assassination that would transpire with that human being, they'd never want to watch football again, because he would start with how many were in the box. I don't know. Well, the conversation's over right there.
Sure.
Well, I can tell you there were 8. It started at 6, and then 2 came down.
Yeah.
So now you have 8 in the box, and the fan has learned 11 play football. So that means there are 3 in coverage. Okay. Secondly, well, the play where there was the sack, was there a guy wide open 15 yards right in front of the quarterback, which means if somebody just does a little bit of a better job blocking, we probably win the game on that play? I don't know. I didn't see it. Well, then well, now all of a sudden you feel 2 inches tall. See, so that's again, you know, fans, that's fantastic. And people will just flippantly be like, do this. It just, it's not that easy. And it's so emotional for these guys at this time of the year, man, because of the time they put in. But they're generally right. But they don't go down the road on these conversations. But the staff, the coaches generally are going to be right here when, like, what didn't you like about that 3rd and 1? How many in the box? No idea. 8. Was there somebody open? Yes. Was it basically 98.7, a perfect play with the exception of a guy getting out in a pattern, not holding somebody or blocking somebody 0.4 seconds longer? Yes. And then you hit Jeffrey. You know what I'm saying?
I do. It
if
depends.
You run into an 7, 8, or 9 man box 100 times, you're not going to accomplish what you want to accomplish 80% of the time.
Correct, unless you have 2012 Adrian Peterson.
There you go.
Which this incarnation of the Vikings do not.
Yeah, that's a great example.
I think ultimately outcomes play into this, where you mentioned the coaching staff, they're right. Rube or fan might not know that there's 8 in the box. They didn't notice the missed block or the chip or whatever. But outcomes play into this. Kevin O'Connell has had a ton of positive outcomes calling the plays and constructing this offense. And so you have that, I think, you know, that lends to the idea that, yeah, I'm right. And then his ability to break them down, I think, has been brilliant as well. So, you know, we've seen this team. Kevin O'Connell will throw it on 3rd and short. I mean, I was logging it at one point, his first season here. It's like, what kind of offense are we going to have? He was like an 80% passing guy on 3rd and 3 or shorter.
Jeez.
So, and that was 2022.
Yeah.
And
that doesn't mean he's always right either.
Well, exactly. But then that's why I'm saying outcomes play into it. And more often than not, if we're going to see positive outcomes from Kevin O'Connell, we'll take that. Finally got him open, didn't execute, and we'll move forward and hopefully execute against the Titans.
Great chat, wonderfully done. 9 to noon continues after this.
You're listening to The Fan.
All righty. Thank you for listening to 9 to noon today. PJ Fleck and the PJ Fleck Show around the corner. Speaking of head coaches, tomorrow, Chris Finch, head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, joins us from Portland, Oregon at about 9:15-ish, 9 to noon time. Thank you very much for listening. For Eric Nordquist, the on-site producer, and Max Fuller, the producer at the 651 Carpets Plus Studios, I'm Paul Allen. That's 9 to noon on FM 100.3 KFAN.
We love you, we got